Welcome to Community Connections with Children's Services Council of St. Lucie County. I'm just one of your hosts, Sean Boyle, and with me is
Ashley Mock.
And welcome to the half-hour radio program that airs every Sunday on our great partner 104.5 The Flame at 10 a.m., but also because of another wonderful great partnership that we have with the St. Lucie Public Schools system. This show broadcasts on WLX TV once a month, and we're very grateful for that partnership. So if you're watching us and you want to see and listen to it in future weeks, make sure you tune into 104.5 The Flame. And if you're listening to us and you want to see what we look like, make sure you jump on WLX at your local cable provider or YouTube. Look up WLX St. Lucie. You can see all of our old shows, and you can see how we've grown up. While the show hasn't gotten any better, we've gotten older. So what we do with our time here is we talk about resources and things that are available for children and families, and we do it in somewhat of an entertaining mode, if you will. But what we're really good at is not hosting the show, but what we are really good at and what we concentrate at the Children's Services Council is five areas. And those 5 areas are: 1, making sure every baby's a healthy baby; 2, stopping child abuse before it happens; 3, keeping kids off the streets; 4, keeping them in school; and 5, keeping them off drugs, alcohol, and other risky behaviors by offering programs and resources for all families in our community.
I saw you counting. I know nobody on camera can see your hands, but I could see.
I know. If I don't count, I lose track.
I know. We always go in the same order, too, so if you threw it off, it would be confusing. But on our website, you can actually find all of the programs that work in those areas that Sean mentioned, and there's actually quite a bit of information about them on our website. So on this radio show, on this TV show, we like to touch on some of those programs and bring on the directors from those programs to introduce to you, but the website has a ton more information about them. So if you go there, www.cscslc.org, you can get a full list of all of our program partners along with their contact information. So if there is something that you or your family is looking for, you can find it there. Sean also brought a prop today. We also, in addition to the website, have these printed family guides, and we still distribute these quite frequently throughout the community. So if you have a place where you could display these or pass them out to your clients or constituents, please get in touch with us because we share these quite regularly throughout the community. It's really a condensed version of the information that's on our website, but it does offer all of the contact information and addresses for those programs that are location-based, like our after-school programs, which are very popular. So lots of good information contained in the family guide as well.
Couple of things. From doing the show, I think I have a legitimate career at being a hand model. What do you think?
I think you can pull it off. I think you could.
But in all sincerity, if you own a business or a place where people gather and you want to become a partner with us and help support families accessing the resources that are available in the community, we are more than happy to bring by a bunch of these so that you can give them out to your customers or your clients, or quite frankly, just the people that you love, so that they can stay connected. Or another strategy is just tune in every Sunday at 10 a.m. We'll eventually get through all these programs. But if you want to shortcut it, make sure you request this, and we'll be more than happy to get it to you. And you can call us to make that happen at 772-408-1100.
It's not a coincidence that there's 52 weeks and about 50 programs. So, hey, we could do it.
We need content, folks. We need content for the show.
We could get them all done. We could do that.
Another good way to stay in touch with what resources and quite honestly, things that are happening, not only at Children's Services Council, but with a lot of agencies that serve children and families, and just fun things to do and inspirational and just funny stuff sometimes. But if you're on Facebook and social media, and let's face it, you are. Let's have this intervention. You are on social media. If you are, particularly Facebook, make sure that you look up Children's Services Council, St. Lucie County. There are other Children's Services Councils, but we're partial to the St. Lucie County one, obviously. Look us up. Make sure you follow our page. We post on there, I think, nearly every day.
Just about every day. And like Sean mentioned, some of it is fun. Some of it is informational. There's actually a really good post from last week. It's Black History Month, and we shared awesome books to read with your kids during Black History Month. That one's been really popular. So there's lots of great information on our Facebook page, and we're funny sometimes, too.
Yeah, and if you're like, Sean, I am all in on the social media, you go next level and follow us on Instagram.
Good luck.
As we figure that one out. Twitter's a whole nother story. We'll get into that at another show.
That's phase 2.
So before we get to our guests, and you already foreshadowed.
I did a
You did a
little
little
bit.
foreshadowing there, but we have a couple of things we want to go over real quick. Do you want to mention the big grant that we got going on?
Big grant. Yeah, we're really excited. We started this month off with a new initiative called our Bright Ideas Grant Funding, so BIG grants. But really we're just trying to offer the community an opportunity for, if you have a great idea that would just need a little bit of funding to support it, to get it off the ground, that's what we want. That's what we want to hear. We want those. They can be small. They don't have to be big, despite the name. They can be small little projects that just would be something to benefit children and families in our community. So those applications are open through March 15th. You can get all of the information, again, on our website or on our Facebook page. But we're excited to see what the community comes up with and how we can have some new opportunities for families in our community.
And to be eligible, it's not just our current funded programs, It's any nonprofit that has an idea for children.
Yep. Any idea. We'll take them.
Right.
All the ideas.
And hopefully we don't get so overwhelmed. But we've been promoting this everywhere, so we expect a lot of application. The other thing I want to mention, just a little precursor, and I'm going to kind of turn it over to you a little bit, is every year, last month on this show, we kind of foreshadowed our program accountability report, which summarizes all of our programs that we work with, how much we funded them, and their accomplishments. And then that really translates in our flow of work into our annual report, which is a high-end review of the accomplishments and the impact that we had in the past year. And I think this particular annual report is going to be a little different because it's, unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, there's a little bit of a COVID focus because we had to shift a little bit, or a lot bit, because of COVID.
You didn't say pivot, which I appreciate.
Darn. That COVID bingo, we missed an opportunity.
No, I mean, I think it's important for us, and we've talked about this on past shows. I think actually last week we focused on it a little bit with Jessica from the United Way, is there's a lot that happened during COVID that the community probably isn't aware of because it was happening behind the scenes, and it was happening to ensure that there were still services out there that could serve children and families. So we had a lot of part in that in different ways. And I think the annual report is actually a really good glimpse at exactly what that impact was. And the role that we played in it and the role that our programs played in it. So it's all the information that we normally would share. And then I think for every priority area, there's like one little stitch of information that's related to what they did around COVID. But it is, 2020 was an interesting year. And it changed a lot of things for the way that we work, the way that our programs worked. But I think in some instances, and you'll see in the annual report, and in a lot of ways, it was for the better.
And if you're watching this show, like hot when it comes out, it's not quite ready. It will be released in the month of February. And by the way, the show is in the month of February because of Ashley's shirt or sweater.
I'm very sensitive.
I just now noticed that. Just picked up on that. So I will mention in regards to the annual report in regards to COVID, we want to give a big thanks. We've done this a lot, but the number of families that we reached in 2020 exceeded the families that we reached in 2019. One, that speaks to the need in the community, but it also speaks to how quickly our programs were able to, and I'm going to check the box, pivot in a COVID world. Obviously, we supported that and helped make that happen, but the fact that they were able to reach more families in a time when, quite frankly, you weren't allowed to be in physical contact is impressive, and we would just want to give a big thanks to all of our program partners.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, we need to recognize the board of the Children's Services Council because we talk with other CSCs around the state, and a lot of them didn't move as fast as we did to make some of those accommodations. But our board members very early on said, we need to do whatever we can to keep our programs whole. We need to make sure that the jobs are still there, and we need to make sure that our families are still getting what they need. And I think that was really important for us as the team because it was our kind of driving focus on ensuring that whatever we were doing was ultimately making sure that those families could still get served.
And I will say, and I'm glad you brought up about the board, that conversation was like less than 3 minutes. They were like, we are solid behind our program.
Sure, whatever.
Meanwhile, I talked to other people and they're like, oh, it was a 2-hour discussion. And they said they wanted, our board was like, we treat this just like any natural disaster, which is we stick with our programs to help them get through it. And that's 100% what we did.
We were very lucky, for
sure. And one last thing, and this is, I'm going to tie this together because we mentioned COVID and, How can you not, right?
Right.
And let's acknowledge, COVID has brought forth many challenges.
Several.
To many families. And even if you don't have kids, it's challenging. But if you do have kids, it's even more challenging because of the virtual learning or even just the school system, because that's changed, and just all the complications. I'm not going to say they're negative or bad, but just the complications and challenges. It creates a lot of family stress. And parenting is hard to begin with. And then put a pandemic on top of it, and it's a multiplier. I'm singing to the choir over here. So I just want to remind everybody, and we've talked about this before, that Families of the Treasure Coast, one of our funded programs and a great partner agency, has a parent warm line that you can call anytime to get the support that you need. And I'm just going to remind everybody that that parent warm line number is 772. Ashley, don't call it right now. We're doing a show. 772-302-3147 is their number. They have multiple resources, and they are available nearly 24 hours a day. And the great thing is, if you go to their website, which is familiesofthetreasurecoast.org, if you're like, Sean, I don't want to call because, they may know who I am because, I'm popular and I'm on TV. You can do it through Messenger or Facebook, but they are there to help you. So make sure you make that call again, 772-302-3147.
Yeah, really a great resource.
So we foreshadowed after school programs, and we've been talking a lot, eating a lot of his time, but I think he's grateful for that. Do you want to introduce our guest?
I would love to. Our very reluctant guest is here with us today, so we're excited to have Marcus Dixon from the Multicultural Resource Center. So thank you, Marcus, for joining us today. I know you have been a guest on the radio show before, but this might be your first television appearance. Is that right?
Yes, with you all.
Oh, that's right. You've probably been in the studio before.
Marcus, I need you to set the mindset. This is a promotion for you, for our guest. We've promoted you. You are now such a worthy guest. We're bringing you into the studio.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here today.
So, Sean mentioned a little bit about our after-school programs, and I think it's important that, we talked about COVID life. We talked about what happened. Schools shut down in the middle of COVID last year, but you and a lot of our after-school program providers were really able to kind of step up and fill that gap. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and what you guys were able to do?
Yeah, well, what I'd like to say for our program and what we did is, fortunately, before COVID, we were actually leaning or moving toward a online learning type of platform within our program. Not to serve as the main focus, but to basically supplement some of the learning aspects that we saw the kids needed. And so when COVID happened, I'm not going to say it was an easy transition for us, but it was much easier, I think, than a lot of other programs that had not thought about that or focused on that in the past. And so for us, it actually enabled us to still focus on our kids that we currently serve, but then to offer some of those learning aspects to kids that we did not serve, that were in the same household as those kids who were enrolled within our program. And so we've really just continued that. Our staff has been really, I guess you would say, tremendous in adapting to the current COVID environment and the way that we operated. And, it has been beneficial for us in the fact that it has allowed or forced us to even think further along the lines of, okay, well, if this continues longer, we need to make sure that we can address some of our high school age youth as well, because primarily our audience was elementary and middle school age youth.
So let's talk about your after-school program. I know we're gonna touch on the teens here down a little bit in a minute or so, but you are physically serving kids in person right now.
Yeah, we're absolutely physically serving kids right now. Of course, following CDC guidelines, we were able to get some CARES Act funding as well to address some of the issues as it related to reopening. So we've implemented a lot of those necessary precautions to help our kids, purchasing UV lights to sanitize the rooms, as well as the mister machines with the foggers, and ensuring that we clean the facilities on a regular basis to minimize the risk of COVID within our facility, including operating, we're at half capacity, so that's about 25 to 30 youth a day. varies because there are things that happen for our kids when they get out of school, and they may or may not arrive at our programs for COVID-related issues that happen at their schools. So,
Right. And so the CDC guideline, you mentioned 25-30, you've like a 1-to-9 ratio or so, 1-to-10 or so ratio with the kids, so that you're limiting exposure of kids across groups and whatnot. And I think, before we jump to, again, the teens part, because I know that's kind of the exciting part we want to kind of touch upon, but can you explain to everybody, because, when people hear the word after-school programs, that a lot of people think, oh, Marcus, you're just having your kids play basketball and run around in the yard, and you're like, give them a snack, and then they're good. But and that's not an after-school program. No. That's chaos.
Right.
But you actually have structured your program with a really emphasis, and I think a lot of parents will appreciate this, an emphasis on academic achievement.
Yeah, not only academic achievement, but social and emotional learning as well. And so we have really been strategic in the academic component, in that we realize we're not the primary educator. However, we can do a lot within our program to supplement the educational aspects of the kids that attend our program. And to that end, what we have done, or been fortunate to do, using some of our online learning management platforms, is to focus the actual academic content that we focus on within the program to tie in with the deficits that the kids have. And this has been very beneficial for us, but more so for the parents, because when the parents, which they often do, ask, okay, well, what are they doing here as it relates to academics? They're leaving school. They may come to the program without any homework, or say they don't have homework. And so what we have tried to do is make sure that that time that they have within our program, that small time, window of time, especially for academics, is really focused on academics and helping them, rather than arbitrarily giving them a worksheet that may not focus on what they need. And so we've been very instrumental in that aspect.
Well, and I think taking that a step further, you've also sort of set the bar high for our other after-school programs, because, when you guys transitioned to more of that online learning aspect, we kind of brought you in and said, okay, you need to share that with everybody else. So, I think it really set you up really well for the shift to COVID. Like you mentioned, it made it a little bit easier maybe. But I think really it kind of raised the status for other after-school programs as well, because it's a great opportunity to focus on academics when kids have that dedicated time and dedicated trained youth development professionals that are there to help them.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the reasons that we also went to that online learning platform was we found that training for after-school staff was lacking, for a lack of better words. And so obviously the needs of the kids were greater than the resources that we had as well. But the online learning platform that we adopted within our program allowed us to address a large majority of those issues that we saw as related to, okay, well, how can we do this? A prime example is the platform itself. I would say anybody can implement the platform without paying $20,000, $30,000 to go to training. Okay, there's a training aspect to it, but once you go through that training aspect, then you're able to train your other staff, and in particular with the after-school programs, the part-time staff is what we found that really needed it. And so I was, of course, the trainer, reluctantly, but I was the trainer, the one who went through it and then was able to train them. And so it really helped in that aspect too.
So in your after-school program, primarily day-to-day, you serve elementary and middle school.
Yes.
You're located in Fort Pierce.
Yes.
Off of Avenue A?
Avenue B in North 23rd.
So close.
Yeah.
Well, in fairness, last time I went to his site, I got lost. I went to Avenue B, so that was in my head. But I think for those families that are watching or thinking about an after-school program, if your child's not enrolled in one, and they're obviously going to contact Marcus based upon this interview. But I think what I truly appreciate about your program, and you touched upon it, is you use technology in a way not to be like, oh, you don't have math homework, so just work on this worksheet. Okay. And you're like, are you sure you don't have math homework? Because kids
right.
don't always say, I have tons of homework.
Yes.
But it's a scientific-based assessment that you do that complements. It's like hand in glove, because we actually had a discussion with the school board to make sure it complemented what they're doing on iReady. It's a full complement. And what I love about your system is you can give updates to the parents and give them tools that they can use at home, so that it's like the school's a partner, Multicultural Resources a partner, and now you have reeled in the parents that you are a partner, and you're actually giving them the tools to be that partner.
Exactly, and that's an interesting aspect, because with our parents, we actually have a parent agreement that we ask the parents to commit to, and it basically outlines what we're going to agree to do, what they would like to agree to do, and then we just blend those two together in order to meet their immediate needs as it relates to the academic component. And what it has also done, a residual effect, is it has, I would say, helped the child as it relates to their social and emotional learning aspects as well. Because now the parent has some information. Okay, we need to focus on these particular aspects of education. Okay, MRC is going to help you. Obviously, the school is going to help you. And we're all working with you together. And as a child, if you know that you have 3 support systems, then you more than likely are going to do what you need to do and try your best to be successful in that. Whether or not you accomplish those goals is one thing, but putting the effort forward to try and do it is what I think really matters.
That's a huge thing too.
And like you said, it's like creating one team for that child, right? And to have 3 support systems, that's what we talk about all the time.
All the time. So before we go any farther, do you have opportunities for students to enroll now or maybe in the summer? And if so, how can they get more information or get involved?
Yeah, well, we're actually, right now I think we only have 5 openings in our Fort Pierce site at the moment, but we will be doing our registration for summer registration for Fort Pierce and our Port St. Lucie site within the next 3 weeks. And so for those parents that may be interested, they can give us a call at 772-672-3710, or they can go on our website, which is www.mrc4families.com.
So Marcus, I'm going to ask you to do a big favor, because I know our viewers can see the number on the screen, but radio show listeners, the only thing I've learned from doing this show for 9 years is when you give out phone numbers, give it out slow, so people can write it down. So one more time, at least one more time.
Okay, the phone number is 772-672-3710.
So as a sort of a segue, because I know we have one other thing that we want to talk about, but I'm sure we've gotten all the parents and grandparents' attention, right? Like, you're going to be a partner with me, you're going to help raise my kids' grades, and you have a phenomenal track record of taking kids that maybe were, and I'm just using this as an exaggeration, maybe a DC student, they come into your program and they are now on honor roll, A, B students. You have a track history of doing that, and it's phenomenally successful. But just on the off chance a child is watching, they're like, that sounds like just going to school again.
Right.
You do make it fun, right?
Absolutely. Academics is a small component within our program, because our STEM program is what I like to call the jewel. And the STEM components that we implement in our program have really allowed the kids to really believe. And that's, if they're lacking in a particular skill set or underperforming, believing is the first step, I think, as it relates to them attaining that success. And so through the STEM components, it allows them to do that. And, our program, the other aspects of it are the social and emotional learning components, because what we have done is we've tried to hone in on specific programming. So Mondays for our program are Manners Monday. So we focus on character development within all of our classrooms within the program, including whatever STEM activities. Tuesdays are Think Ahead Tuesdays. That's our career prep day for all of our youth within the program. And each one of them have specific things that they work on. Matter of fact, I think next week they're working, or is it this week, they're working on or studying for, is it phlebotomy? Phlebotomy.
Oh.
Yeah. So Wednesdays are considered wacky Wednesdays. That's basically where they're doing wild and crazy science type of experiments. Experiments that are out of the norm that we would traditionally do. Thursdays are Thoughtful Thursdays, and they focus on health and social causes locally and globally. And so right now they're looking at everything that has happened these past couple months with our election and the way that people are thinking and their focus. And then Fridays are really called Fun Fridays. Everybody loves Friday because
It's fun.
Friday. It's Friday. There's nothing to say on that. So yeah.
That sounds well. Are there openings for adults at your
I,
program?
I was thinking that I was going to ask.
That's the question I have.
So,
Can I
like,
come?
I have a 21 and a 23-year-old. Can they attend the manners and the? But we've talked a lot about what you're currently doing, and again, if anybody's watching, you need an after-school program, and if you've ever watched the show, your child needs to be in an after-school program because otherwise, what are they doing while you're at work?
Absolutely.
And make sure it's in a structured environment. But you are working on something to engage teens, which I know we only have 2 minutes left, but is very exciting. So in 2 minutes or less, can you explain that?
Okay, yeah. We're working on an esports program within our after-school program to serve as, quote unquote, the pilot program for other after-school programs within our area. And so we're right now basically doing some research on it. And what we're trying to do is tie esports in. Well, we're looking for an esports program that has a learning management component because we don't want kids to get on there and just game. They can game anywhere. They have game esports facilities at the mall where they can just go and game or at their home.
And for those of you who don't know what esports is, not that I'm the expert, but it's electronic sports, right? It's
Electronic
video
sports,
It's a
video
video
game.
game league.
Video
competitive
game,
league.
exactly. And so we're looking at a platform that's going to tie entrepreneurship in with it, as well as some social and emotional learning aspects, because we feel that that's important, and we know that that's important for our young people.
And I find actually that this is very exciting because, when we talk to all our after-school programs, they can get the elementary school kids because the parents are like dropping them off. You can get the middle school, same theory. The high school kids, you have to find a creative way to engage them because otherwise they will not stay.
Right.
Yeah.
If they, your attendance reflects whether or not they're engaged in your program.
But you just said 2 words that get them there, and it's video games.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right.
And in a world of COVID, where you can interact with a youth and maybe not have 30 kids in the same room, you can make that active and participatory without necessarily physically being there.
Yes.
And to add a learning component, that's a win-win for this
It's
community.
huge.
Yeah.
So I know this. Do you have a survey or something that you're asking teens to fill out in 30 seconds or less?
We actually do have a survey, and if anyone would like to get it, I would ask them to give me a call at 772-672-3710. And that survey is for teenagers to fill out to gauge their interest and what have you as it relates to esports and how we should go about implementing it community-wide.
Awesome.
As we wind down, I just want to give big compliments to you, Marcus. We've known you for a long time, and I mean that respectfully. We've known you for a long time, and you have really grown this program to be. Actually, and I talk about this all the time. If most people choose location-based, right, for where they go. If I had to send my child, if my child was a middle school or elementary school, and I had to send my child to an after-school program, I'd be calling you. Phenomenal program that you have.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks, we are out of time. Make sure you call Marcus to get your child enrolled, and or if you have a teenager, to fill out that survey as we build this out for the community. So excited. Remember, folks, it's our children, our community, our future. Now more than ever, we're all in this together. We'll see you next time.